Hello 8th graders. Your new video is going to be on different types of things that we can do with angles and parallel lines. So first of all, we need to go over a couple definitions. The transversal is a line that intersects two other lines at different points. And I know that's a pretty vague definition, but if you look right here at what I have drawn right here, this line right here is the transversal, the one that's crossing these other two. Corresponding angles, they lie on the same side of the transversal and in corresponding positions. And then the alternate interior angles lie within a pair of lines and on opposite sides of the transversal. And I'm going to go over those right now. And so T, I just said, is the transversal. These two lines, we'll just call them X and Y, are parallel lines. And this only works with parallel lines that are crossed by a transversal. Okay, it won't work two lines that aren't parallel and then you try to cross it with something else. These rules will not work for that. So first of all, let's look at corresponding angles. Corresponding just means they hold the same position. So if I give these angles some numbers so that we can talk about them. Which angle would be corresponding to this one? Which one holds the same position and it's on the same side of the transversal? That's what this says right here. So 1 would be corresponding to 5, right? So 1 and 5. And then if I said which one corresponds to 3, you would say 7. They hold the same position. It also means that they are congruent if they're corresponding. So 2 and 6 would go together. They hold the same position. And then 4 and 8. So what did I just say about them? They are corresponding. Means they hold the same position. And they are congruent also. Means they're equal, right? So if I found out the angle for the measure of angle 1, then I should be able to figure out the angle of every single one of these other ones. Okay, and I'm gonna show you how to do that here in a little bit. So then we need to talk about alternate interior angles. Alternate interior. Well, interior would suggest that it's inside, right? So these angles right here would be interior. So 3, 4, 5, and 6 would be interior. But if you look at what it says here, alternate, lie within a pair of lines and on opposite sides of the transversal. So 3 and 6 would be alternate, opposite each other, right? 3 and 6. So 3 and 6, and then obviously the other two, which would be 4 and 5. They are alternate interior angles. What else can you see about the alternate interior angles? 3 and 6. What looks like might be a rule there? And 4 and 5. Don't they look to be congruent also? So alternate interior angles will also be congruent to each other. Important to remember when we go through this last part here. Alright, so I have another one drawn here. And let me give it some numbers so that we can talk about it. So we'll go 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. This will be 8. And I'm going to actually say that this one is 150 degrees. Okay? Just because I know that one angle, if I use my rules that we just talked about with the alternate interior angles and the corresponding angles, I should be able to figure out all 7 of the other angles, right? So here's what works pretty neat with these. All obtuse angles will be the exact same. So 2, 3, 6, and 150 will be equal. Okay? So if this is 150, this angle is also 150. And if these two are 150, these two are also 150. Okay? Because they are vertical. Vertical means they share two lines, right? They're vertical. Plus the fact that these are parallel lines crossed by one straight line. That's another rule that you can use. So they will all be 150 degrees. And how do I figure out 8? Well, these two together make a straight line, right? So that's 180 degrees. So if 150 plus the measure of this has to equal 180, then angle 8, angle 5, angle 1, and angle 4 all have to be the same, which is 30 degrees, because my 150 and my 30 add up to 180. So that will always be the case. You can use those rules when you have parallel lines cut by a straight line, which is called a transversal. If you can find one angle, you can find all the rest, because these two have to add up to 180, which means these two have to add up to 180, these two, right? And then the alternate interiors would be equal as well. 3 and 6 would be equal, 4 and 5 would be equal, if you use all the rules. So it says if corresponding angles or alternate interior angles are congruent, the lines are parallel. Well, we just proved that, right? Alternate interior were equal, corresponding, which would be 1 and 5, 2 and 6, 3 and 150, 4 and 8. They're all congruent, so it works. And then what did we use to solve all this? It's called deductive reasoning. We do this all the time in class. I might not call it that, but we do it. The logical process of drawing conclusions from given facts. We do that a lot on Moby. Like, because we know one thing, we can solve another thing, right? You can draw conclusions based on what you already know. So bring that information with you, and we will talk about it more tomorrow. Have a good night.